Welcome to The Blind Mole. I am Mole.
And I'm Joby.
That theme you are hearing is Alan Silvestri's Avengers main theme. The first Avengers movie gave us that iconic theme that we were all kind of hoping for. And then what the heck happened?
So that's the question that we're here to address today. What is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, their approach to music, and what can we expect from the upcoming Infinity War film?
Think about all these Marvel movies. Ant-Man, Captain America.
Wonder Woman.
No.
That one's
Nice
great.
try. All these movies have less than memorable soundtracks that accompany them. We're here to argue that this is a conscious decision done by the producers at Disney. They want these soundtracks to be less than memorable. And we have 4 reasons why this is. And we're going to get into those right now. And afterwards, we're going to talk about the impact that their decision is having on these movies. So,
Great.
Joby, let's get into it.
All right, so during our research, we came across an awesome video called the Marvel Symphonic Universe, which has a really great... It kind of picks apart different Marvel movies and why they're not memorable. Reason number 1, the music is predictable. What you see is what you get. The music doesn't really question the scene. It doesn't question what you expect to notice at that moment. In fact, most scenes can exist without the music. There's a contemporary feeling right now with some producers in Hollywood that the music shouldn't act as a main character. It's almost like an invisible butler. It's there to serve you, but never to be seen or noticed. It's there in the background.
Take this scene from Avengers Age of Ultron, for example, and try to pay attention to the memorable music that they tried to include. Contrast that with a, forgive me all you Marvelites, DC movie, Batman Begins. Check out this scene and tell me what you're going to remember.
Your parents' death was not your fault. It was your father's.
So DC's not totally inferior to Marvel, eh? Reason number 2 why these movies have less than memorable soundtracks, Temp Tracks. Basically what happens is a director asks for a cool track to be put in during the edit, so he can see what it will sound like theoretically with music, and the editor can edit to that. And then he says, hey, why don't you make the score sound like this track?
So the composer's hands are tied to these, great or often great temp tracks, but it's kind of it's hamstringing their ability to be really unique and creative to make something memorable.
So instead of really iconic, interesting Zimmer themes or John Williams themes that you might expect to hear in such an epic movie like Infinity War, you're getting something like Nicolas Cage in Drive Angry. The soundtracks are just that level. It's really pretty embarrassing.
Reason number 3, inconsistency of composers. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've made so many films now that they've brought in basically every composer in Hollywood. And so, yes, while it is a universe, the music itself, it doesn't mesh as a universe. It's very Frankenstein if you look at the music as a whole.
Yeah, and it has this really interesting effect of producing 1 or 2 great tracks on a soundtrack, and that's it. These guys have their hands so tied that they're brought in, they're temp tracked to death, and then they're asked to create a new style for a character that may already have a style. Take Captain America, for instance. Who did the original Captain America soundtrack? Alan Silvestri, who did the Avengers. So you'd think, so Alan Silvestri is going to be the guy that they're going to go with.
Not necessarily.
Who did the Winter Soldier? Henry Jackman. So they just went away from Silvestri, even in the same... Just imagine if Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises had different composers. You can see it
It's a
would not be
problem.
the same Batman trilogy. It just wouldn't be part of the holy trinity of trilogy. It's not to say that they're not picking in some great composers. Patrick Doyle was brought in for Thor and produced a really beautiful track called Can You See Jane? Michael Giacchino was brought in for Doctor Strange, and he's an A-lister, and he showed why he was by producing a really beautiful track called Strange Days Ahead. The soundtrack overall is probably the best soundtrack in the Marvel Universe, in my opinion. Tyler Bates, another name you might not expect to hear as, being someone of prominence. He was brought in for Guardians of the Galaxy, but that soundtrack was totally overridden by popular music. And you missed out on great tracks like Groot Spores, which is just a gorgeous track, and To the Stars.
They're playing by different rules. So often when we look at movie scores, we almost expect these Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones level thematic music that you can really remember it by. We're kind of starting to see these themes, however, with Guardians of the Galaxy and now Black Panther, where they've brought in a lot of this kind of like pop music that is relevant and fitting to the film, but not necessarily scored music. It's these awesome kind of tracks that you might hear on the radio. Reason number 4, Marvel Cinematic Universe, when it comes down to it, they're not taking any risks. They're playing the safe game. Music, when it comes down to it, that it is taking an emotional risk. It's taking a risk saying we can help you connect emotionally with this character, scene, or this moment through the music. And of course with the visual elements that are happening at any given moment. This is a risk, and we've seen this risk pay off when talking about Batman Begins or these other films that really invest a lot of time and energy into that. But Marvel Cinematic Universe has totally pulled away from that risk and saying, we're going to play it safe, we're going to play the visual game, but not the music game.
So what can you expect to see when you go see Infinity War? Infinity War will have an A-lister to be scoring, and that's Alan Silvestri. You'll hear that main theme again, I'm sure. But guess who did Age of Ultron? Brian Tyler. So again, Silvestri does first Avengers, Brian Tyler does second. Basically Avengers 3 was Captain America, and that was Henry Jackman in Civil War. And now Infinity War is done by Silvestri again. So the inconsistency is really going to hurt them here. And I'm not expecting anything from this soundtrack. I'm expecting one measly mole to come out of this, but we'll see. I'd love to be pleasantly surprised. As I was in Ready Player One, I thought Silvestri did a pretty good job.
So here's the thing. We all grew up in this age where we watched Saturday morning cartoons. So you'd look at Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Let's get dangerous.
Power Rangers. You got Captain Planet. You got all of these awesome...
Batman the Animated Series.
Oh my gosh, yes. Spider-Man even, right? Like, you have these epic cartoons, and we still remember these theme songs only like decades later, right?
Let's get dangerous.
So the nostalgic value is very high, and part of it is the theme music that we can still remember. Looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, these films don't really have that element. What that means to me is that they will not have the staying power that maybe we want them to have. These movies are forgettable. They're memorable in the moment when you're there in the theater, and that's good enough. That's good enough for Marvel. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has made more money than Star Wars, Harry Potter, pretty much, everything else. And they're okay with that model.
Most likely, you're going to see these movies be resurrected within the next 20 or 30 years. It's like Disney is already planning on a Star Wars Episode 7 for the Marvel franchise and saying, let's make these movies less memorable so that we can reboot them easier. It's an interesting theory, one that we're sticking by.
Thanks for joining us here today on The Blind Mole. I'm Joby.
And I'm Mole. Be sure to let us know what you thought about Infinity War. We'd also love to hear if there's other soundtracks out there from the Avengers series and the Marvel Universe that you really love that we're missing out on.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. Again, we love to hear what you guys think.
Peace!